Check. 1, 2, 3. Building the recording studio, part 1. Take 1. So I decided to build a recording studio, and I needed somewhere to do it, and I found this old house. As you can see, it's going to take some work. This house is kind of interesting in a few ways. It's mostly a brick construction, and it has blocks of sandstone above and below the windows. Another feature of this house is that the way they built the walls is they poured a footing and then built a foundation on top of the footing until they got above ground level with the foundation. Then they built two walls in parallel on top of the foundation with an airspace in between. So this gives the wall some intrinsic insulation because of the airspace, and it also is impervious to sound, which is what you want in a recording studio. Now, one of the problems that we have is that front window. It's certainly not worth the effort to try to make it soundproof, so the window had to go. So I got rid of the window, blocked it off, and it will be insulated. And then we have to deal with the plaster work on the interior, which, as you can see, is not in the best of condition. So once that's all dealt with, then we'll put a layer of sheetrock over it. Now this is a close-up view of the shingle work above the front window. These shingles, they're not in very good condition. After a century of snow sitting on top of them and then drying out in the sun and then getting wet again and drying out, they're just about ready to go. So we need to replace these shingles. I couldn't find any place to just go out and buy those kinds of shingles, so I had to make a template and cut them all to fit and then, match up the pattern with the existing shingles. And so now these are nailed in place and ready for primer and paint. So here's a view of some of the work that's been done now. Got a scaffold there on some wheels so I can wheel it around the place as I'm working on it. And most of the roof is done at this point. I hand nailed every shingle on that roof myself. And if you look at that white arrow, that used to be a front door. For some reason, they built these old houses with two front doors, one into a different room. Someone told me that maybe it's because they had, tenants or something that lived in there where they needed, separate entrances. Anyway, that one front door had been replaced previously with a window, and I didn't need that window in there, so I blocked that off and insulated it. And I decided I was going to have skylights on the south side of the roof. So I had to custom build these skylights to fit in between the existing rafters. So that was a project, and installing them was a project too, because this is not a very easy roof to deal with. It's fairly steep pitch to this roof, and so just staying on there is something. Okay, so the skylights are in place in this view, and now we're finishing up the roof on the south side. So that gives you an overview of, what the work was like, getting the place into shape. And there was a lot of interior work that had to be done also, just more than you want to see. So I didn't show it to you. So coming up next, we're going to design and build some high quality cabinets for in the studio. So the equipment will be mounted into a rack cabinet, and then we're going to have another cabinet that'll have some positionable shelves in it. And that can also be converted to a 19-inch rack cabinet if desired. So we're going to show you some of this cabinet construction in the next video. So be sure to sign in if you're on YouTube, then subscribe, and you'll get a notification by clicking on that bell icon. And thank you for watching the channel.